Assalamu alaikum girls. We were reading lesson number 1, Shot in the Dark. Half lesson we completed yesterday. And as I was telling you that this is a story of a man, Philip Slatherby, who is going to a state, Yorkshire, to meet a lady. On the way he met a boy who told him that he was the son of that lady, and during his journey he was missing something, and he asked him to help him with some money. And during the discussion he discovered that he find out that this boy was not telling the truth. So here we were studying that the boy was telling the man that he was actually the son of that lady, and he is also telling him that he didn't saw her mother for 6 months as he was on a continuous travel. He was moving and traveling and enjoying himself. And what he is saying to him that he told him that on Monday morning he would arrive there at his home, and on returning he would give him his money. And he also told him that his name was Bertie, and he was the second son of that lady. And he was also telling him that it was quite a coincidence that he had met a person who was a friend of her mother. And he also told him that I have done an awfully awkward thing. And what he had done an awfully awkward thing, this he would explain here. You have lost something, haven't you? Said Slatherby. As the boy was searching for something, so that's why Mr. Slatherby asked him that you have lost something. So the boy is answering, not exactly, but left behind, which is almost as bad, just as inconvenient anyway. I had come away without my coin purse, with 4 quid in it. This is the amount of money, all my worldly wealth for the moment. It was in my pocket, all right, just before I was starting, and then I wanted to seal a letter, and the coin purse happened to have my crest on it, so I whipped it out to stamp the seal with, and like an idiot I must have left it on the table. I should have put it back. I had some change loose in my pocket, but after I had paid for the taxi and my ticket, I had only got this little 6 pence left. I am stopping at a little country inn near Bronte for 3 days fishing. Not a soul knows me there, and my weekend bill and tips and cab to and from the station and my ticket on to Braille, that will mount up to 2 or 3 quid. Want it? If you wouldn't mind lending me £2.10 or 3 for preference, I shall be awfully obliged. It will pull me out of a hole. So the boy is telling him that I had not lost something. Actually, I have forgotten my purse, the bag where I have put all my money. And he was telling him the story how he left it anywhere on the table, and he forgot to take it back, and all his money was there. And now he is going to stay at some place. He had gone there for fishing, and he had to stay there for 3 days, and all the expenses would take 3 to 4 pound, but he didn't have the money now. So he was requesting him that now if he would lend him some money, 2 or 3 pound, he would be very thankful to him. And he also said that it will pull me out of hole. It's mean that his help will take him out of that problem of money. I think I can manage that, said Slatherby after a moment's hesitation. And after some time thinking, he just agreed to give him that money. Thanks awfully. It's jolly good of you. What a lucky thing for me that I should have chanced across one of the mother's friend. It will be a lesson to me not to leave my purse laying about anywhere when it ought to be in my pocket. I suppose the moral of the whole thing is don't try and convert things to purposes for which they were not intended. still when a coin purse has your crest on it. So here in this paragraph, he is just thanking the person for agreeing, giving him the help, and he also told him that he got a lesson from all that incident, that he should not put the things anywhere and he should keep his purse always in his pocket, and when there is also a crest on the logo on that purse also, and he should use the things for only the purpose they are made. So what's your crest, by the way? Slatherby asked carelessly. Not a very common one, said the youth. A demi-lion holding a crosslet in its paw. It's the symbol or the logo of his family. It's a semi-lion, and its lion has in his paw. It's a symbol in his paw. It's the logo of the family. When your mother wrote to me, giving me a list of trains, she had, if I remember rightly, a running greyhound on her notepaper, observed Slatherby. There was a tinge of coldness in his voice. So the boy was telling him about his crest, and the man remembered that when her mother wrote something on a notepaper, there was some other crest on that paper, and he told the boy about it. That's the Jago crest, responded the youth promptly. The demi-lion is the Saltpen crest. We have the right to use both, but I always use the demi-lion because after all we are really Saltpens. So the boy replied to him that this was the crest of my mother, and actually my father's crest is the other one and I use the other one, but we can use the both. There was a silence from a moment or two, and the young man began to collect his fishing tackle and other belongings from the rack. The silence shows that now the man became suspicious about that person, about that boy. He did not believe on his story. My station is the next one, he announced. I have never met your mother, said Slatherby suddenly. Though we have corresponded several times, my introduction to her was through political friends. Does she resemble you at all in feature? I should rather like to be able to pick her out if she happened to be on the platform to meet me. Actually, he was suspicious now about boy, so he just gave another question to know that the boy was right, or he was just telling a lie that he was son of that lady, and he asked about her features. She is supposed to be like me. She has the same dark brown hair and high color. It runs in her family. I say this is where I get out. Goodbye, said Slatherby, and when the boy told him about the color of her hair, at that point he was struck, but the boy didn't get, and he just said goodbye. You have forgotten the 3 quid, said the young man, opening the carriage door and pitching his suitcase on the platform. I haven't intention of lending you 3 pounds and 3 shilling, and said Slatherby sourly. But you said. So when the boy is going to leave the train, he asked him that you didn't give me the money that you have promised. But the man told him that no, I will not give you now the money. So the boy told him that, but you said to help me. So what the man replied, I know I did. My suspicions had not been roused then, though I had necessarily swallowed your story. The error about the crests put me on my guard. Notwithstanding the really brilliant way in which you accounted for it, then I laid a trap for you. I told you that I had never met Mrs. Saltpen Jago. As a matter of fact, I met her at lunch on Monday last. She is pronounced blonde. So the man gave him the reason why he is not going to give him the money. He told him that when I promised you, I didn't have any type of doubts about you. But now I have many doubts. First, the story you told me about the crest, I swallowed it very hardly. Otherwise, you tricked me. But now then I asked you about the hair color of your mother, and you told me that her hair color is dark. When I told you that I just told a lie that I didn't saw her, Actually, I saw her last Monday and her hair color is blonde. She is blonde. The train moved on, leaving the so-called son of the Saltpan-Jago family cursing furiously on the platform. So the boy, he was just cursing him on the platform, and the train left, and the man did not help that boy. Well, he has not opened his fishing expedition by catching a flat, chuckled Slatherby. He thought by himself that now the boy could not make me any more fool. He would have an entertaining story to recount at dinner that evening, and his clever little trap would earn him applause as a man of resource and astuteness. He was still telling his adventure in imagination to an attentive audience of the dinner guests when the train drew up at his destination. On the platform, he was greeted sedately by a tall footman and noisily by Claude Pupil, an important lawyer who had apparently travelled down by the same train. So the man was thinking by himself, and he was quite happy on not becoming befooled by a boy, and he thought that I would also tell that incident to the people at the dinner, and they will definitely impressed by cleverness. And during that time, the train stopped, and his destination arrived, and there a driver, a driver of that lady and a lawyer, they were waiting for him. Hello, Slatherby. You spending the weekend at Brill? Good, excellent. We shall have a round of golf together tomorrow. Ah, here we are. Here is the car waiting for us, and very nice too. The car which won Claude Pupil's approval was a sumptuous looking vehicle. This was a very costly car and very comfortable car, which seemed to embody the last word in the elegance, comfort, locomotive power. These are all the words that are expressing the car. It was very impressive car. Its graceful lines and symmetrical design masked the fact that it was an enormous wheeled structure combining the features of a hotel lounge and an engine room. It was very comfortable and very beautiful car, different sort of the vehicle to the horse-drawn carriage in which our grandfathers used to travel, exclaimed the lawyer appreciatively, and for Slatherby's benefit he began running over the chief points of the perfection in the fitting and mechanism of the car. Now he is starting to discuss about the different mechanism of the car. Slatherby heard not a single word, noted not one of the details that were being expounded to him. His eyes were fixed on the door panel, on which were displayed two crests, a running greyhound and a demi-lion holding in its paw a crosslet. The lawyer was discussing many points and many things, but Slatherby's attention was not towards his words. His attention actually towards these two crests that were, and there he saw there on the handle of the car's door, and these were the two crests the boy discussed to him. So he just came to know that the boy did not tell a lie. Claude Pupil was not a sort of man to notice an absorbed silence on the part of the companion. It means that the lawyer did not notice any type of silence on the part of Slatherby. He had been silent himself for nearly an hour in the train, and his tongue was making up for the lost time. Political gossiping, personal anecdote, and journal observation flowed from him in an uninterrupted stream as the car sped along the country roads. Just as the car turned in the Brill entrance gates, Claude Pupil captured Slatherby's attention by switching his remarks to the personality of their hostess. In that all the paragraph, the lawyer, he was talking too much. He could not keep quiet, and even he could not notice the silence on the part of the other person. He was continuously talking about on the different topics, and when they entered the Brill entrance, then he started to talk about their host. Brilliant woman, level-headed, a clear thinker, knows exactly when to take up an individual or a cause, exactly when to let him or it drop. Influential women, I wouldn't dare upset her, but too restless. no repose, good appearance too, till she made that idiotic change. Change? Requires lullaby? What change? Now he is talking about the personality of that woman, that what type of the lady she is. He is quite praising that woman, and at the end he is just telling him that he has made an idiotic change, and the person asks him what type of change he has made. What change? You don't mean to say? Oh, of course, you have only known her just lately. She used to have beautiful dark brown hair, which went very well with her fresh complexion. Then one day, about 5 weeks ago, she electrified everybody by appearing as a brilliant blonde. Quite ruined her looks. Here we are. I say, what's the matter with you? You look rather ill. So the lawyer at the last paragraph, when on inquiring the person that what type of change she has made in her personality, he told him that she has just changed the color of her hair 5 weeks before, and you didn't know her before. Her color was dark brown, and she was quite speechless at the moment, because now he came to know that the boy was actually the son of that lady, and he was not telling a lie. And now he was afraid that when the boy would came here on Monday evening, what would happen to him. And he had the fear that maybe now he could not get the favor of that lady. He had much worries now.